Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Hey, welcome to this episode of the No Close Show. As always, Scott Carson, excited to be here with you today. It is a gorgeous day here in Austin, Texas, and we're calling this episode the Ask Me Anything episode. And we sent out some emails from some of our students. We posted on Facebook. We've also went through some of our previous emails this past week of questions that people asked that I obviously answered. And I thought a lot of them were some pretty good questions to dive into this episode here with you guys today. So stay tuned. We've got some advanced questions. We've got some very new questions. I got about 2 pages of questions that I thought I could go through in this episode and help answer those questions that you guys may have. And now these are just kind of thrown in, no particular order, keeping it fresh and so clean as they came in. So some of these are newer questions that we received in the last couple of days, and as we get further down, some are within about the past week or so, from people responding in emails or posting on the Facebook or LinkedIn, or sending me private messages with these questions as well. So hopefully you enjoy them and help. They're here to help educate you. And we're going to start this off with the first question. Comes from Todd out of Maryland, and he asks, where can I find reverse mortgages for sale or reverse mortgage sellers? And, that's a really good question. And without giving away my sources, we only give our sources to our coaching students, or one-on-one coaching students who are buying stuff and stuff like that, not to increase competition, but actually finding reverse mortgages and sellers of reverse mortgages is actually pretty easy. Now, with reverse mortgages and HECM mortgages, because these are home equity mortgages, a reverse mortgage, they're a Fannie Mae product, is these are sold in large portfolios, not any Tom, Dick, or Harry's and go up and buy a one-off note from HUD or Fannie Mae, right? They're HUD sales, actually. So every 6 months, every year, there's been a couple big sales of reverse mortgages. And so if you just go type in like reverse mortgages sales, HUD reverse mortgage sales, it'll pop up like the HUD website and one of the companies, Falcon Asset Sales, that handles the sale of these assets, right? And what it is, it's a big bidding. And they recently had a big sale in December of last year. They've got another one upcoming here before too long. But what they do is they will show you can actually go to the HUD website and actually see the results of how many notes were totally sold and who the winning bidders were on these different portfolios. And it's anywhere from like 1,000 notes down to like 50 notes. Some are nonprofits, some are LLCs, some are funds. One of the biggest buyers is a source that we buy from on a pretty regular basis. We get their tapes in from them. And so that's the first thing. Go to HUD, look at who's selling, who is the winning bidder on those assets, and that's how you find sellers. Now, the thing with a reverse mortgage is there's got to be constant reporting. You have to report back to HUD what happened with the note. Was it a foreclosure? It wasn't obviously a modification because the borrower passed away, right? And what did you sell it for? What was the value of the property? You have to report that stuff back to stay compliant with HUD sales. Now, you can actually go back through the last couple of years and see all the different entities that have bought these things, okay? And what we have done is we've taken that list and compiled it for like the last 3 years of these sales, 3 to 4 years of these sales, and then we reached out and started skip tracing. It doesn't take long to skip trace, okay? Or you just basically go into the counties and start searching for these specific assets, or you do a Google search for these LLCs. It will often then lead you to who the bigger company is, because a lot of these are special purpose. So you just go see who the attorney is, or where their office are located, or where they're associated with, and go from there. Or one of the things we also will do, we'll go into some of the bigger counties across the country and search for these asset company names and find out if there's any assignment of mortgages and other names. And that's how we've been able to find contacts at most of these companies that reached out to. Pretty easy to do. You can find 4 or 5 off the most recent list in just a few minutes by just Google searching to see who the company is and if they've got a website. All right. Now, I'm not going to give you this contacts unless you're a one-on-one coaching student, but that's pretty easy how to find stuff. Google the names, cross-reference, jump in the county records where some of these bigger deals are taking place. Sometimes they'll list the states that these are in. But that's really what it comes down to. Googling and just doing a quick research going to LinkedIn and looking for a name, or looking to see where that LLC is registered and going to the state registration, and then reaching out to either the managing member or even the attorney on site for it. So that's how you find it. And then using county records, LLC search, and good old Google to find the contact name. So hopefully that helped answer your question for you, Todd. Ingrid asked. Now, Ingrid had a few questions. Ingrid is actually not from here in the United States. She's from Belgium. And she is looking to invest here in the United States. And so I would like to ask your advice about good places to network. Now, if you're here locally or you're here in the United States, the first place you should go to network would be your local real estate investor associations, okay, your real estate clubs. And most clubs will meet in the morning, the noon, or in the evenings once a month or once every other week or something like that. You can also go network at like Business Networkers International, BNI.com is usually a good place to network. Going to different conferences, going to industry events, those are all good places to go to network, depending on what you're focused on. All right. So I wouldn't necessarily go to like an apartment complex conference looking for note deals. Whatever your niche in real estate is, go find out the top 3, 4, or 5 conferences that take place. See if there's one near you. If there's one really close to you, go hang out in the bar lobby. Maybe don't pay the admission. See if it's worth your time and energy to go first. And then the next time they have it, then pay the ticket and go for them. Most of the time, we're not paying to go to events. We're actually going and just hanging out, meeting with people at the event, at the local bar, in the hotel, or the conference center, and go from there. Okay. Do you recommend buying performing or non-performing notes? Yes, no, and why? So that's a double-headed question, because I would have to ask you, Ingrid, more so about what your focus are. That's where it comes down to your goals, what you're looking to accomplish. A lot of people ask me that question, which way should I go? I like notes, but which way should I go? Now, if you are working a full-time job, you don't have a lot of extra time. And I'm not saying a lot of extra times, even non-performing, you can do stuff like 10 hours a week or less. But if you're working full-time, you don't want to get into foreclosures, you don't want to get into workouts, you want something that's more passive, then I would just stick with the performing note side. Okay. Now, if you are a full-time real estate investor, you don't mind rolling up your sleeves and working a little bit, or getting a bigger discount, which can lead to bigger deals, bigger yield, then the non-performing side is a better place to go for you. Either way, you're going to need capital. Now, if you're going to use your own money and you want to put 200 grand or so to work from your IRA or your retirement, and you want to make a double-digit return, 10, 12%, you can do that very easily in performing notes. With performing notes, if you don't have any money, then you're going to need to buy stuff that was probably once reperforming that is now being sold at somewhere around probably a 16 yield, so that you can give your underlying investors, if you need to raise capital, an 8% return, and you keep the difference. Non-performing, you've got to be a little bit more flexible on that. You got to spend a little bit more time on it. Not a lot of time, but you be willing to drag this out a little bit. You're not going to get immediate cash flow. If it's vacant assets, you're going to go through foreclosure process or cash for keys. The reverse mortgages, that's not a cash flow play. That's a foreclosure REO play. Okay. But that's the route I would go. Either you got to know what you want. If you're okay with the workouts, if you're okay having to do some rehabs, you got to be willing to evict people who are not willing to pay, and also be willing to foreclose on them. Okay. How to do it? If I don't have money to buy now, you need to go raise capital. You need to market your business like anything else. Do not let not having capital or not having money stop you from going out and being in the note business. Because I didn't have any money. I just went out and marketed deals and raised capital to fund the deals. I wasn't really a wholesaler. Wholesaling a note is more difficult than wholesaling a piece of property, because most people that are in the real estate space, when they see a wholesale deal, they see somebody list an address, they think they're talking about the property, not the note business. A lot of wholesalers, a lot of fix and flippers don't understand that, hey, I'm buying the note, I don't own the property, and I may not actually ever end up owning the property if I have to take it to foreclosure. It's a little bit different separation of mind from what people are used to. So I'm not a big fan of wholesaling notes unless you've already got a buyer's list, because a good buyer's list is what you really need. It makes more sense if you're starting off, in my opinion, and that's just my humble opinion, that you go out and raise capital instead of trying to find a buyer's list. You actually use that to market, to raise capital for your note business. Understand the deal, understand the intricacies of what note you're looking at, whether it's non-performing or performing, what are the advantages and the disadvantages of either side, and knowing the strategies. Hey, our goal is to buy this non-performing note. We're buying it at a discount, and our goal is either A, to get them back on track for cash flow, or B, to take the asset back through cash for keys, deed in lieu, foreclosure, whatever it might be, or to help the borrower liquidate the property or pay us off. So you got to know what's going on and market that way. A lot of note wholesalers don't make sense because they're basically throwing stuff against the wall. They don't understand the value of the deal, or they end up wanting too much of a wholesale fee when the deal doesn't hold it. So that's a longer question, kind of that ties into with where you are at currently, what your goals are, and what you want to accomplish. Okay. Due diligence is not just the property, the condition of the property. Due diligence and notes. If you're looking at the borrower, you're looking at obviously the collateral file, the loan docs, making sure you have all the right things in there, all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, and then you have the right to foreclose. And then the property condition is the last aspect of things. Okay. And if you're looking for more of that stuff, you can always check out our upcoming 3-day workshop that we're hosting here. Actually, it's coming Friday, Saturday, Sunday at notebuyingfordummies.com, or check out our 1-day free class at noteweekend.com. All right. So if I'm still looking to wholesale a note due to lack of money to buy the note myself at first, which documents, papers are necessary? So to put a note under contract, you still need to have a loan sale agreement. You still need to make an offer that makes sense. Okay. So if you're making an offer on a note, you're going to need to sign what's called the loan sale agreement. Okay. With a seller. And then if you're going to wholesale the property, you need to either have a wholesaling agreement, like a assignment contract, or you could have a fee agreement, or you may need to do a double closing if you don't trust the person that you're buying it from. You just got to make sure that your buyer is ready, willing, and able to close. I would have them close a couple days earlier than you're supposed to close on yours. And then depending on how much you trust that person, like there's people that I would trust, like, okay, yeah, no problem. Just wire me the $2,000 or the $5,000 or my wholesale fee at closing. We'll just transfer the contract to you, and I'll form the seller. Okay. But some people are shady out there that once they find out who the seller is, they want you to cut you out of the deal. And now they have infinite deal flow with that seller. So I would do a double closing or double contract, basically, where the seller gives you a loan sale agreement from them to you. You go out and create a separate contract and swap you from the buyer to the seller, and then your buyer becomes the buyer on the second contract with the increased price, the wire instructions and stuff like that being different, and the closing to be a couple of days earlier. Just got to be careful of that. Okay. It all depends. And then you would need to also set up an escrow account with an attorney or a account where the buyer can wire the funds in for the full deal, and then you turn around and wire the funds directly to the bank. You keep your wholesaling fee. Okay. I've seen cost for a escrow account being like $500 to $750 from an attorney. You're not going to get a title company to do that because they're not going to make any money because there's no title insurance being sold. So just prepare to have a real estate attorney do that, and then you'll need to instruct them how to do that. She also asked the question: is it necessary to have a lawyer to look at the document? If yes, is it expensive? A wholesale agreement, not really. A loan sale agreement, no, you don't necessarily need to. I mean, it's still good at first to have somebody review the documents. It's going to cost the attorney whatever they charge to review documents. Sometimes it's $150, sometimes it's $250. Some attorneys will do it as part of the deal, others won't. It just varies on attorney by attorney and your experience with that attorney. Okay. Another question here from somebody else was, this was from Gene. What states are your favorite to buy notes in? All right. And my answer to that is whatever's going to be the best yield. Now, the answer to that is that geography of states, my favorite has changed over the years. Like I'm in Texas, and Texas is a great state to buy notes in, but they're often more expensive because of the fast foreclosure laws. So if I'm telling somebody to buy notes, and like I get tapes in, here's what I look at. Here are the states that I'm going to have inventory to look at, because that's the most important thing. You could say I want to buy in Idaho, but if you don't ever see anything in Idaho, you're not going to be a very good note investor because you're not going to hardly see anything in Idaho, right? So if you want to look at inventory, the best states to live in, if you want to stay in your states to look at, would be Indiana. It's a judicial foreclosure state, but relatively fast, quick to evict. Ohio is a judicial state. Takes about 9 months to foreclose, but if it's an occupied asset, And based on your due diligence, most of the time you'll see that borrowers want to stay in their house. So like Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, outside of Detroit, for the most part, there are good parts of Detroit. There's some rough parts of Detroit. I mean, there's good spots to every city and bad parts to every city, right? Just those three states, for the most part, I think seem to have a bigger bang for their buck when it comes to ROI. Lower values, rent rates are a little bit higher compared to what you'd be paying for, and it just seemed to have the most cash flow. And then just picking the biggest markets, biggest cities in those areas. The one city that I kind of have when it comes besides Detroit in Indiana would be Gary. Gary, Indiana can be a little rough, really, but it is going through a lot of regentrification. Illinois is a judicial foreclosure state. It's okay to buy outside of Cook County for the most part, specifically Chicago. It's just going to be a longer foreclosure. Michigan's a faster foreclosure state, non-judicial. And then you get into the Carolinas, North Carolina, South Carolina. North Carolina is non-judicial. South Carolina is judicial. It's a year to foreclose. Missouri, it's a relatively fast foreclosure state. Kansas is a judicial state, but you also have to have a separate debt buyer's license there, something to keep in mind. But most of the time, in those states, I mean, if you get something in Texas, Oklahoma, relatively fast. Tennessee is great, but can also be overpriced. Those fast foreclosure states are going to also cost a little bit more. But something in those bigger markets of those states, for the most part, I like Phoenix. I like, Las Vegas. I also, there's parts of Florida that I like. Just Florida has changed a lot, and you got to be prepared for higher insurance costs. And the market there is kind of being hit hard with so many properties available for sale. So I used to be heavy on God's waiting room, Florida, but that's changed. I'm very, very particular about that. I think I only really look at stuff that's in Orlando for the most part right now. Okay. Which states should I avoid buying notes in? Another great question. I would avoid buying in New York, New Jersey right off the bat. I wouldn't buy a note necessarily in Minnesota and Alabama, a mortgage in those states, because of their redemption periods are a year. After the fact, once you foreclose, you've got to give the borrowers a year to come back. And sometimes it can be shortened down to 6 months in Minnesota if they're deceased and stuff like that. All right. But Alabama, it's a 1-year redemption period. It means you got to hold on to the asset. It actually makes more sense to buy a contract for deed in Alabama because it's treated as a tenant relationship versus a foreclosure relationship. Okay. I would not buy a contract for deeds in Pennsylvania. I would buy a mortgage in Pennsylvania, but not a contract for deed. All right. And those are really kind of the bigger things. I don't buy in California, Washington State, Oregon State, just it's, different license for those areas, and they're just not very landlord or lender friendly. So pick your lender friendly states and then look at the foreclosure timeframes that it takes to foreclose and the eviction and figure that out on a state by state basis for you. Okay. Stephen asked, here's another question. Let's see here. He asked a question: how do you get comfortable buying notes outside of your own market? What tools do you use? And that's a really great question. I get that question pretty often. If I remember correctly, Stephen's actually from New Braunfels. His dad and his family's been buying notes for about 20 years, but only in Texas, because they drive by every note that they look at. Now, they buy primarily owner finance stuff and land notes, and that's fine. Texas is a big state, though, and I think Stephen told me he got his actual pilot's license to fly up to Lubbock and back to go check out these notes individually. That's a lot of capital expenditure to even before you go take a look at it, right? So what we utilize a lot of times, obviously, we're going to use Google. We're going to look at Street View. We're going to look at Zillow to get a quick, rough value. We know it's not a final number, obviously, evaluation. But when you're looking initially at notes, especially residential notes, you're going to do what's called an indicative offering. You're making an offer based on what the online values are, Zillow values, an AVM value. Of course, you're going to have time for due diligence. If your bid is accepted, do your due diligence, but don't have to fly out to look at everything. You can order a BPO, broker price opinion, from a company like us that can go out and send somebody out to take a look at it for 80 to 100, 150 bucks, which is cheaper than you flying all the way across country on Southwest Airlines or dealing with that. Okay, so that's the thing. I get comfortable out doing that because the BPOs show me basically 3 to 4 parts of the home, all sides. I'm not so worried about the interior because I'm not going to get inside interior. I can tell you a lot about the property by what the property looks like on the outside. And looking at the history on Zillow too is really nice, or Google Maps shows you what the properties looked like over specific years. So if it looks good, the lawn's mowed, you call the utility departments and the power, the gas is on, somebody's taking care of it. If it looks trashy on the outside, it's going to look worse on the inside. And that's the whole point, is make offers on the front end based on the online values, online due diligence. And then if your bid's accepted, then you'll do a much deeper dive into picking up the phone and calling the utilities, calling the next door neighbors, sending somebody out to actually view the property, a realtor to take snapshots, to see if it's vacant or occupied, if it's vacant, peeking in the windows, that kind of stuff. Just start with one and you stick to building your system. So this is the thing I always say, is get comfortable with the market. If you're going to buy in Ohio, then it does make sense to fly up in Ohio and drive around the cities that you're going to buy in. Talk to realtors, build you a team of people in those markets, just like you would have a team here in your hometown. There are realtors, there are people that will go buy for you, there's contractors that will give you bids. Get an idea what's going on. And that's why, if they sit back on networking, it makes sense to network in real estate clubs that are across the country too, finding people that you can use, leverage, and trust as well. Okay. Like I say here, Todd asked the question, I want to buy notes and just foreclose on them so I can immediately sell the property to an end buyer. Is this the right strategy? And that is a big whopping no. Now, if you're buying reverse mortgages, yes, that's the only strategy you have, is to foreclose and either A, sell it at the auction, or B, take the property back as an REO, fix it up, and sell it. The problem with this is if you get people that are interested in buying a specific house, before you own the house, you may not end up ever owning the house. Okay. So an investor that wanted to do this, there was a property in North Carolina. The buyer was willing to pay $130 for the house, but the note was going to be the offer was going to be like $90,000. Well, the balance was like $117 on the note. So if you buy the note at 90 and take it to foreclosure and it sells at 117 at the auction or above your 90, okay, or 117 was the legal balance if it was worth more than 130. So logically, your highest bid at the auction, you being the bank, now that you bought the note at 90, would be somewhere above 90. So you make some profit, right? It's just that a lot of times people do not want to commit to something that there's an They're not tied into that aspect of it. Now, there's nothing wrong with making 10, 15 grand, but if you don't have your own money in the deal, you really need to bring your investors in, not on a joint venture, but get somebody who's comfortable being in the deal for 6 to 12 months, who's more about the return, not about the end product. Okay? Because what will happen is if you get somebody who's interested in buying so much for a house, they don't know condition, and they're thinking about buying the house, not what goes on with the note. And if it takes you 6 months to foreclose or 90 days to foreclose, people will often, their idea and excitement about buying a specific house is going to waver as they move on to something else. So I think you need to be buying for your own portfolio first, and understanding that if it makes sense, if the borrower starts making payments on time, will it make sense to you? 2, if you foreclose or get cash for keys and sell it if you have to foreclose, great. And make sure that the number makes sense if you do sell at the auction or take it back, or if the borrower is able to pay you. You gotta make sure that all these numbers work. Approaches the bank, if you try to approach it too much from the real estate side, you're going to get confused and it's not going to work in the long term. You're going to be frustrated dealing with buyers who really don't stick around because it takes longer for you to go through it. And you trying to finagle it makes things a lot more difficult than it could be. Okay. Dale asked a question. He goes, I'm looking at a tape of newly originated notes. Why would the note owner on this, a lender, be looking at selling them? And that's a great question, Dale. We get these tapes in from different servicer for different sellers. Some are Wall Street. They'll have some stuff that's newly originated. And it all depends on what's going on with that tape. You have to look a little bit closer at the tape. Now, in some of these cases, you'll get tapes in of people that have newly originated, non-bank lenders who will have originated these notes with a warehouse line or their own money or own deep pockets. Now they're looking to sell these notes off to a buyer at really what's owed at par. So they're getting paid in full and able to, take that $2 million that they sell these notes for to go back out and relend it again. Okay. And they're making, a lot of these lenders, mortgage brokers, are making money on origination points and the difference between yield spread premium. Okay. Others, these tapes may also have some deficiencies. Maybe they're a scratch and dent. Well, maybe they're labeled as S&D. Scratch and dent means that maybe the borrower's paying in time, but there's missing documents. Or maybe it was a specific lending program that required the borrower to have a 680 FICO, and the borrower's credit after closing had dropped to 650 or 620 or 675. So you no longer qualify for that third party to buy that note from them. So now the lender is forced to sell. All right. You may also see new notes, newly originated notes that people are trying to sell, that's another question we get here. They're trying to sell it and try to get as close to par. And that works in some cases. Other times it doesn't work. And I'll go into that in a second with the next question we have to go through here. But if you're curious about why a note seller is selling a tape or why a tape is up for sale, just ask, what does this mean? And there's a whole lot of difference. We see scratch and dent, we see non-performing, we see tapes of REOs, we see tapes of contract for deeds. It all varies. If stuff is performing now but was once non-performing, maybe the investor went in and bought these assets up at non-performing at a big discount, worked to get the borrowers back on track. They've been performing for a while, and now they're looking to sell those assets off and recapitalize. Just varies a little bit, but good question, Dale. John asks, what's your favorite way to structure an owner financed note deal to make it the most valuable to sell? Okay, so here's a caveat, okay? And this also falls in line with CJ's question here. You often talk about not chasing or buying owner finance mortgage leads. Can you tell me why you aren't a fan of that? I'll get to that second. But here, here's the thing. If you're going to owner finance a property, okay, and you want to immediately sell the note, you're going to take a discount, okay? Do not structure that note better than what somebody could go out and get it. So if somebody needs owner financing, okay, why do they need owner financing? Can they not get traditional financing because of, they're self-employed, they got cash and they got cash flow, but they don't have long-term financials or they don't have the credit score, okay? What do you want to do? When I take a property back as an REO, people ask, well, why don't you owner finance and create notes? Because I don't want to take a discount. I would rather get my capital back. I would rather get my money, my profits back in so then I can go do what I want with it. I don't want to tie up 40, 50, 60, 70, 100 grand in a note. That's my profits that I can't tap into. Oh, yeah, you can sell the note. Yeah, but I'm going to sell the note now at a discount. 10, 20% discount because it's newly originated and it may not be structured properly. So here's the best way to structure. First and foremost, always find out if you are going to do owner financing. If you can sell the note regularly and it takes you 30, 60 days to sell it regularly, just do that. You're going to get the biggest bang for your buck immediately. All these people that are in the owner financing say, oh, you make so much more money over 30 years. Not really. Yeah, collecting payments for 30 years will result in a big amount. But if I'm taking that money and I'm going out and doubling it every 6 to 12 months or making 12% of my money instead of the 8% of the note, I'm going to outperform the 30-year mortgage every day if you just know how to invest, okay? But if you are going to owner finance it and you're comfortable holding that note for a period of time of at least 12 months, then get as much as a down payment you can. 10% at a minimum is what I would suggest, so that then you're only doing a small second and a first of like 70, 75%, okay? So in this case, if somebody's bringing 10% down, I would do 10% down payment, a 75% first lien, and a 15% second. So the combined LTV, the CLTV is only 90% of the LTV, right? 75 plus 15 is 90. The reason I'm doing 75 first and a 15% second is if somebody pays on time for a year, that 75% second, that 75% first could almost automatically get refinanced at 90, 95, maybe even at full value to a bank. So you're going to get 100% or something in the 90s as long as that borrower's credit score is decent and they've got the right things, okay? And you can hold that 15% second for cash flow. Now, if you flip it the other way and just do 10% down and a 90% first lien, you're almost automatically going to take a 10 to 15% discount off of that first lien that you're just going to say, sayonara, it's gone away. All right? So it makes more sense for you to do it structured so that the first can be refinanced out. And if you taking a discount, you carry that second for a period of time for cash flow. Okay. That's better than taking a discount, but that's what makes these most structurally attractive. Of course, the interest rate, you need to have something that's a normal interest rate, a little bit higher than what somebody with A credit would get. So if rates are at like 6 right now, I wouldn't be doing anything less than 8. Okay. Preferably 9 or 10, just being where it's at. Okay. But that's what I would do. I would do 10% down, a 70 to 75% first, and then a 15 to 20% second so that you avoid losing any money on a discount. Because if you went 90 and tried to sell it and you only got 70 cents of the dollar, well, guess what? 70 cents of the dollar of 90 is 63,000. Okay. Now, if they give you 63 on a 70, that's only a 7% loss. You still have that 15 to 20% second there for you. Okay. So that's what I do. Also, make sure it's with a licensed third-party servicing company. It's collecting. Make sure it's Dodd-Frank compliant. It means running the borrower through an NMLO, and then also setting up it like automatic payments. You're going to get away with even doing one with the borrowers instead of just making PITI payments, PITI and servicing, PITIS rolled into that. Okay. But having it with a third-party servicer is important. Having to make sure it's Dodd-Frank compliant, and that way that makes that paper more valuable. Treat it like a bank loan, structure it like a bank loan, and understanding that. If you're going to sell a property and plan on selling it, just want to cash it, you might as well just sell it at 90 cents a dollar, take the discount now, instead of structuring this all up and then having to get rear-ended without the Vaseline in the back end. Okay. A lot of people talk about owner financing, and it can be a great thing if you're planning on holding for a period of time. But if you're not going to hold it for a period of time, you're going to take a loss. Okay. Now, some people, when they rehab properties, they buy the property at such a low dollar amount, and then the rehab costs on it, if they're at 60 cents of the dollar, then they're pretty good. They can take a little bit of a discount because they're still going to get paid off in full and pay off their underlying hard money loan and their own investment stuff. Okay. Another question here. CJ's question: you often talk about not chasing or buying owner finance mortgage notes. Can you tell me why you aren't a fan of this? Well, okay. So I believe in working smarter, not harder. There's for years and decades, basically, people have talked about how to go to the county records and you can buy a list or download a list of people who've owner financed their house. Just do a deed search and see who owner financed, right, at the county records. But then that might be one person with one note. So now you're sending out direct mail, letter campaign, stuff like that. And then we all know direct mail has a very low response rate, 1 to 4%. Okay. So if you buy 500 leads and you get a 4% read, that means you take 20 phone calls. Well, that's probably only 20 individual notes. That's a lot of tire kickers and people that don't necessarily want to sell their note at a discount that makes sense for you. And you don't know if these notes are structured properly. And it's a lot of the same work to get one lead from one seller, right? I don't think that's effective. That doesn't make sense at all. In these days, it makes more sense for you to post something on LinkedIn or post something on Facebook saying that you buy notes. Not just in the note investing groups, but posting on your regular profiles and social media, wherever you have social media profiles, say, hey, I buy notes, or going out and networking with your local real estate clubs. You'll get more leads that way from owner finance. I like dealing with bank notes because once I make the right party contact at the bank, they're going to send me a list of notes every month, every quarter, with either a phone call, an email blast, or stuff like that. That costs me nothing. And every time I get a list, it may be 36, it may be 50, it may be 200, it might be 900. Okay. So I get a lot more deal flow coming in with a lot less headaches, and my cost per lead, I should say, is a whole lot less than what people are spending in direct mail. I field hundreds of phone calls over the year, people who have bought leads from some company, some note educator who only does owner financing, and these leads are just like, they're dead wood. I mean, it's just dead leads. Just doesn't make sense, and it's a frustrating thing. I would rather put my time into contacting banks, hedge funds, asset managers through LinkedIn or email or dollar for dollars for that to get much better deal flow. Final question here. As we wrap it up here in this episode, this has been fun. We may have to do more of these. John asked you a question. He goes, how do you stay so positive all the darn time? And when he asked me this, I had to chuckle a little bit. Here's the thing. I have ups and downs just like any of y'all do. All right. There are good days. There are bad days. There are good deals. There are bad deals. There are deals that drag out longer. There are closing take place. In the words from Full Metal Jacket, life is a big shit sandwich, and sometimes we all got to take a bite out of it, right? I was very fortunate enough that early on as an entrepreneur, I did spend a lot of time on like self-help, the mindset, overcoming obstacles. And that's the way I look at things a lot of times. For years, when we had an office and something would happen, I would always tell my team, look, we got 30 seconds to bitch about it. And then let's quit wasting energy on this negativity, and let's find the positive. Let's find the pivot from it. And that's still the way I am today. Steph always jokes that I'm Mr. Positivity and I don't get negative. Oh, I still can have negative thoughts. I can still have stinking thinking, but that never does anybody any good to sit here and just wallow in the mud. Oh, woe is me. It never made any sense to do that to me. always made sense. Let's overcome obstacles. Let's figure some things out. You know, it's kind of that going back to being, I think, an athlete. When you're an athlete and you're playing, competing against somebody like in football or basketball or something like that, it's kind of like a chess match, right? There are going to be times that you get pancaked and other times you pancake, and that's what I think I love about so much about football is kind of that chess match of things, of how they put people in the right positions and how to do things. It's the same thing here. You're going to have good days, you're going to have bad days, but the thing is, shit should not flow downhill. Okay, if you've got staff, teammates, a following, you shouldn't let your crappy day flow down. Now, yes, it's okay to talk about when things are going on. All right. But those that wallow in it and woe is me is not going to attract the right type of people to you. You catch more flies with honey than vinegar. So if I'm not having a good day, I sure as heck don't get on here and talk about it. Okay. I take the day off, or I try to go do something to get my mind in the right spots. One of the most pleasant things the last 5 years is usually the daily walk I take in the morning. Getting up, going out, walking myself in the neighborhood, sometimes walking my neighbor's dog. That's really nice. I love sports. I love going and watching baseball. That takes my mind off of things. But knowing that if I can fix it, and what's there to worry about, or if I can't fix it, then it doesn't do me any stress. It's kind of that, don't worry, be happy. Everything's going to be all right, And that's the thing is, I think a lot of folks early, Zig Ziglar, Greg Reed, Bob Leonetti, Bob Proctor, Lou Brown, Les Brown, some of the people I read a lot about mindset early on, T.R. Vecker, Sharon Lecter and stuff like that. Life is full of hurdles. Life is full of obstacles. And you're going to have bad things happen. But sometimes bad things happen for a reason that open the door to somewhere else, somewhere you're supposed to be. Right? That's the biggest thing to take a look at. Good things happen. I mean, good things happen to people who are prepared. Bad things happen to good people all the time. It's just how you deal with things. And I'm a big believer that God never gives us anything that we can't handle. And so I do rely on my faith quite a bit, that I know I can get through it no matter what it is. God will provide. I'll find a way to overcome, and it may even be bigger and better than ever before. So that's why I'm always in a pretty good mood, because I woke up 6 feet above ground, and it's a great day to be alive. It's a great day to be alive. Sun's still shining when I close my eyes, when I open my eyes, whatever how the Rascal Flatts song goes. But anyway, I want to thank you guys for that submitted questions. If you like this, please feel free to type in questions. Book a phone call at talkwithscottcarson.com. I'm always here to help answer your questions. Shoot me an email at scott@weclosenotes.com. And we'll probably make this a regular occurrence. I know I've probably talked about that in the past, trying to get people on to do it. But I think people like submitting new questions a whole lot easier because they don't have to be on video or have their voice hit. So thank you to everybody. Have a great day. Go out, take some action, and we'll see you at the top. Hey, real estate investors, this is Scott Carson. I'm known across the country as the note guy. For the past 20 years, I've been buying distressed assets, primarily non-performing notes on residential and commercial properties. And if you've ever wanted to learn how to dive in to start buying non-performing notes from banks, hedge funds, or other investors like yourself, then there's no greater place than to get the nuts and bolts, the A to Z, the 1 through 99 place to get started. It is our virtual note buying workshop. We've been teaching this class since 2010 on how to find, fund, flip non-performing notes, how to get banks to call you with deals that you can cherry pick. And no, you don't need millions. No, you don't need a lot of experience to start looking at non-performing notes. We get the lists of notes from banks, hedge funds on a regular basis, not 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, but hundreds of deals that we can evaluate and cherry pick. Whether we're looking for performing notes or non-performing notes that we can get reperforming, or non-performing notes you can foreclose and take back, whatever your niche or whatever you would like to focus on, we can help make it happen at the virtual note buying workshop. It's a 3-day class. Our next one is April 18th to the 20th. It's actually online live via Zoom. You get signed up by going to notebuyingfordummies.com. That's notebuyingfordummies.com. Day 1 is all about how to find these assets. How do you find asset managers? How do you find lists of people to reach out to that you don't have to spend thousands of dollars on postcards or letters that you waste money on? We don't do that. Day 2 is all about raising capital and marketing and how to create a business that feeds itself, that you can do part-time, 10 hours a week, 5 hours a week, depending on what your focus is. We'll show you a game plan to achieve deal flow coming in on autopilot versus you having to send a ton of money. And also, we'll show you how to raise capital like nobody else does. And then day 3 is all about the flip. How do we structure deals? How do we evaluate a tape to find the deals from the duds? All right. We'll show you what vendors to use. We'll give you a 200+ page manual, contracts, sample forms, all the stuff that you need to be a lean, mean note buying machine when you get wrapped up. Now, yes, this is live April 18th through the 20th online via Zoom. Get signed up today. We'll send you the replays of the previous online workshop so you can start learning, start evaluating material, and get rock and rolling. And if for some reason you don't like our class, we have 100% money back guarantee involved with it. If at the end of the first day you don't like what we talk about, you don't think it's impactful, just let me know. We'll refund back your tuition, no questions asked. We don't want your money. We want you to become a note buyer. We want you to become a lien lord. All right. Like I said, if you're tired of dealing with toilets, tenants, and trash outs, you don't want to deal with renters, then becoming a note investor is the path for you. Everybody evolves into a note investor at some point, but there are plenty of opportunities out there. There are millions of non-performing notes that you can cherry pick. No, it's not all junk. It can be small value all the way up to $1 million homes or $1 million apartments for you. So much opportunity is taking place right now in the chaotic market that we see. And who's going to come out on top? Note investors will. So take the time, get signed up today, April 18th to 20th. Go to notebuyingfordummies.com or go to our website, weclosenotes.com, and sign up for the virtual workshop there. As always, get signed up today. We run discounts all the time. The cost of tuition is you plus your partner or spouse. So get signed up today at notebuyingfordummies.com, and we'll see you at the top. Hey, note investors. So you want to dive into the world of note investing, but know how to get started, or you don't want to pay $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 for a one-on-one coaching program that just completely does not deliver the deals or the funding or the access that you need to take your note business to the next level. That's why we have our one-on-one coaching program. I'm Scott Carson. I've been buying notes for 20 years. I've helped thousands of investors buy their first note direct from banks using either their own funds or other people's money to buy non-performing, reperforming, or performing notes, yielding them an above average return. Now, what's involved with my one-on-one coaching program? It's unlike anybody else's, because guess what? You're working with yours truly, not some paid student, not looking at some recycled list of stuff. Now, what we do is differently than anybody else out there, and that's why we have such a huge success rate with our one-on-one coaching program. What's involved? Well, once you take in our 3-day class, our Note Buying for Dummies workshop, sign up for our coaching. You get 10 weeks of one-on-one coaching calls. These are on Zoom in the morning, the afternoon, the evening. What works best around your work schedule? We accommodate this to help you start looking at stuff. And during those 10 weeks, we focus on finding deals, making offers, getting your website, your social media stuff set up so that you are a lean, mean note buying machine. After spending 10 weeks of Zoom calls with yours truly, that's right, live, not somebody else, we'll spend 2 days one-on-one. And usually people come to Austin, Texas to hang out with us on a Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, Sunday. And those 2 days are focused on whatever you are still lacking and need the most amount of work on. Sometimes it's making offers. Like Larry came in, we made 50 offers that he got 20 approved in a weekend. Other people came in to raise capital. So we helped them find IRA investors to fund their deals so they're able to raise hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars for their note deals and other investing stuff. We're also going to give you a list of asset manager contacts for you guys to dive into. That's right. This will be either LinkedIn profiles, emails, phone numbers, names, all for you to start reaching out to people. No, you don't need to buy notes directly from me. We're going to show you how to go to banks and contact them directly. We're also going to make introductions to our top 12 hedge fund managers that send us deals on a weekly or monthly basis. That's right. You go straight to the front of the line. And guess what? There's no 10, 20, or 30,000 upcharge for the deal. You buy direct from the hedge funds because we make the introduction. That's why, why do we do this? Because we know, not we believe, we know there are more than enough deals to go around. And yes, we make most of our money from buying note deals for ourselves. Some people will say, oh, you're creating competition. No, because there's plenty to go around. All right. We're also going to give you a 1-year membership to our WCN membership for 1 year. That's $97 a month usually. That's going to allow for you to continue support weekly coaching calls along with access to our Basecamp group for other things, other tapes, other resources for our coaching students. We're going to help you with raising private capital, putting your pitch deck together, putting sample deals together, or either case studies that we've done, other students have done, or that you're doing so that you help raise capital or help you find IRA investors in your local market or the markets you're looking to buy in. You're going to also basically, for you plus your partner, spouse, person you're going through this with, you're going to have VIP access to me. That's right. Whether you need to jump on a quick phone call, a text message, a quick Zoom call to go through tapes or notes that you're making offers on for us to review your bids or to help answer a question when it comes to loss mitigation, foreclosure, bankruptcy, whatever it might be about a deal you're working through, get VIP access to me most of the time. Come on now, everybody. We're also going to do a 6-month follow-up day after you spent 2 days with me. 6 months later, if you want to, we can do a half day, a full day Zoom follow-up just to see where you're at, what are you dealing with, where are you looking to go? Because within 6 months, you should have already closed on several deals the way that we teach them, because we will help you find your first deal and then some. We've had students who've closed on their first deal in 30 days. We've got others who've closed on 6 deals in their first 35 days. Other people have closed on 100 deals in their first year. We're here to help you because guess what, ladies and gentlemen? There is plenty of inventory out there. We're not going to focus on owner finance notes. We're going to focus on how to get people calling you with their deals or how to get banks sending you lists on a regular basis that you can cherry pick and show you how to raise all the capital that you need. Our one-on-one coaching program is the most complete program out there. That's why you have such a high success rate. And it's cheaper than most of the others out there. And we also give you the biggest bang for the buck by helping you make the introductions, looking at the tapes, helping you bid if you're coachable. Now, not everybody's coachable. Not everybody can afford this, but what we can do is we can set up payment plans and different options for you. I encourage you to either book a phone call with me at talkwithscottcarson.com and we can talk about it, see if you're a fit. Not everybody's a fit, and that's A-okay. But go to talkwithscottcarson.com, book a call on my schedule, and we'll gladly talk about our one-on-one note coaching program to see if you're a fit. One of the very requirements is we do require people to go through our 3-day class, but that whatever you've paid for that 3-day class is applied to the tuition for your one-on-one coaching. And we also have a third-party provider who's willing to finance this and carry financing for 2 to 3 years to help you pay it off. But we're going to work with you until you get your first deal closed. We want to help you make your money back in the first 6 months, if not sooner. So check us out. Pick up the phone. Give me a phone call. Talkwithscottcarson.com. That's talkwithscottcarson.com. Book a call, and let's see if you're fit to take your business next level. Sometimes all we need is just a hand up to take you to the next step, to show you the way. This is not a blow smoke up your tail, give you the crappy tapes left over, or upcharge you $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 per asset. No, we want you to buy direct, and we've always found if you can show a man how to fish, you'll feed him for a lifetime. So let's get started, you being a note investor for the rest of your investing lifetime.